Look, that segues beautifully into what I want to ask you next, and something I found very intriguing from the Great Panic. We're hearing a lot about vaccines. It's the latest, I guess, receding finish line that we're chasing, heading towards. That finally, after saying it was to flatten the curve, it was to reduce deaths, it was to do this and that and everything else, the next promise is, this will all be over if you get vaccinated. I don't believe them for a second. But you wrote in the book, mass vaccination programs contain the seeds of their uselessness in them, whilst being costly and disruptive, with many side effects as well. They were, in effect, a mass medical experiment with unknown long-term costs and benefits. Well, talk us through that one. That's a very brave call.
Well, first of all, the reason why mass vaccination programs had the seeds of their own uselessness. Coronaviruses in general, like many viruses, mutate over time. So it was pretty clear pretty early on that this virus was going to mutate. And they mutate more when you partially treat them. So if you give a vaccination to somebody and it's not 100% effective, oftentimes the remaining bugs that are in their body can learn to fight back against that vaccine, and then it develops a new strain, right? So when you have, vaccination that isn't completely effective, you have this acceleration of the mutation process, and mutation was already going to happen anyway. So like flu bugs mutate every year, right? We know this. We have new versions of the flu shots every year. This was always going to be kind of the same thing based on what we have seen previously with coronaviruses. And so the idea that there was going to be a silver bullet at the end of this whole thing, there would be a vaccination and then we would never more have the disease, was just always a fantasy, right? Was always going to be a situation of trying to contain and control the worst symptoms and having to just get on with our lives with a new bug in the mix, right? That was always, from probably about July or so last year, that seemed to be what we were going to inevitably have to do. So in terms of the side effects and whatnot, we've been seeing adverse effects, of course, and this mRNA technology is very new. Some people think it's the best thing since sliced bread. Other people, including very, famous doctors, including some who even had a hand in inventing the technology, have some reservations, certainly about giving it to children. And, I don't think that it's for sure a home run thing. It certainly seems like on balance, it does prevent or lessen the chance of serious effects for older people, which is, of course, the vulnerable group. And so, what I've been advocating for is if somebody who's over 65 really wants the vaccine, give it to them. If they want it, fine. Get the GP to consult with them and make sure they understand the costs and benefits as much as we know them now, and then have them have the vaccine. But to have this idea that a population vaccination rate of say 80% or whatever is required without regard to age or susceptibility to COVID as a precondition for opening the country is madness. That's saying we have to do something to our whole population, which it doesn't seem like it would necessarily pass the cost benefit test, certainly for children to get this vaccination, in order to regain a basic freedom. So that's not part of the social contract that I signed up for, and I think a lot of Australians as well.